Hello everyone, my name is Pixlriffs and welcome back to the Minecraft Survival Guide. I hope you guys are having a good day. Before we start today's episode, I thought I would give you a quick update here on the Nether Hub, as I have done a few more little custom biome dioramas on live streams and stuff like that. Let's hop up here and take a look at the swamp biome, which I'm personally really happy with. We're using grey glass for the swamp water, which does actually look pretty accurate if you go and visit a swamp in the overworld. We've got some vines hanging down from these oak trees, some blue orchids underneath the trees, because I could only really put them on blocks which would end up being spawnable, and as you know, I'm kind of meticulous about keeping this non-spawnable, so it doesn't look like we have zombie pigmen wandering around the dioramas here. The leaves are, the vines rather, are a little bit of a pain. They keep growing up onto the glass above, so I might have to do something about that, and this tree in general just looks a little bit weird. Anyway, might fix that in future, but we've got a little miniature witch hut as well, which I think is probably one of my favorite features of this whole section. Moving on to the right-hand side here, we have a dark oak forest, complete with mushrooms. There are other trees that grow in dark oak forests. You also get birch and oak trees growing there as well, but I figured I would stick to the dark oak on its own, and I think that looks pretty good. I'm probably going to put some kind of transitional biome here, probably a jungle, because that leads out into the desert biome, which is going to be one of the warmer biomes, and I want to connect each of the warmer and colder biomes in the circle, so we're probably going to start the cold biomes somewhere over there, maybe. Anyway, this is looking real fun. It's kind of a challenge to work with something, make it look sandy, and also work with half blocks, because we've got smooth sandstone slabs here that sort of look like the sand texture. We can kind of get away with it, but I like the fact that we've been able to plant a few cacti in here as well, because of course zombie pigmen won't spawn on those, and if they do, they take damage, so not to worry there. We've also got a little desert temple kind of situation here as well, and these are not half blocks, but we could probably do something about that. We've got a few full blocks in here as well, but they've got a slab above them, so they're not going to be spawnable either. And so the result is a couple of really neat-looking biomes, which I'm very, very happy with. So we're going to be spending some more time in the Nether today, but it's not going to be at the Nether Hub. In fact, we are going above the Nether Hub. We're going back up to the roof of the Nether, and today, finally, we are getting started on our Nether Roof gold farm. I'm not going to guarantee that it'll all get done in this episode, but you never know. These things are actually relatively straightforward to build as long as you know what you're doing. So, considering this is the first time I've ever built one of these, it's probably going to be a good thing to hedge my bets here and assume that I might get it done in 2 episodes rather than just 1. And I haven't done a great deal with the roof of the Nether yet. Since the episode in which we first broke bedrock and came up here, I have left this place well enough alone, because it can be a little bit risky building some stuff up here, but it can also be very, very good, very profitable for what we're trying to do here. As you know from the previous zombie pigman farm, one of the biggest issues with it is spawn proofing, not being able to spawn proof the area around it in the Nether and have these zombie pigmen spawn entirely in the area where you want to farm them. And that is why you will find people building gold farms exclusively on the Nether roof most of the time, because up here, zombie pigmen cannot spawn on the bedrock, and we have an extra 128 blocks worth of height to work with in Java Edition. I have to once again preface this and say that Bedrock Edition players aren't able to build anything on the roof of the Nether, because for whatever reason, Mojang has decided that 128 blocks is the maximum build height in the Nether, which is not a restriction they've applied to the Java edition. So I'm going to build scaffolding up here as high as I possibly can, so we're going to get to a height limit of 256 blocks, much like we did with the Drowned farm, just trying to build it as high in the world as possible to prevent spawns from happening anywhere else. Naturally, we are going to be AFKing a little bit lower than 256 blocks. We're probably going to be AFKing around 250, 248 kind of territory. So the thing about this is you want to make sure a little bit of the roof of the Nether down there is still spawn-proof, because it might still be within the radius of where you're standing when you're AFKing at this pigman farm. But this is largely going to be an AFK design, and it relies on some mechanics that I'm going to explain as we build the farm here. But this is the top of the Nether. At Y256, it is really high up. So high, in fact, that from here, it is really not that possible to see the bedrock. I mean, it is, but you just get that, like, weird haze that happens because of the texture being so far away. Anyway, we are going to build out with the scaffolding here so I can place a few shulker boxes that we're going to be using for building. Apparently, I can't place scaffolding there. Interesting. Can I walk out on that? Oh, this is weird. Okay, weird behavior. I wonder if we can exploit that for something. Anyway, let's move down a little bit here. Let's build at 255. There you go. It's allowing us to place blocks at this height, but Yeah, interesting. I wonder if that can be used for something. Anyway, let's place down all of the shulker boxes that I've got here. I've got one for concrete, smooth stone, and I've got an iron box here as well. We're going to be using a lot of iron for this a little bit later, so having the iron farm already is probably a good thing. We've got... Oh, we can't even open these at 256. Okay, well, let's reframe this a little bit and let's move down. I rarely build anything at build height, by the way, so this is slightly new mechanics for me to work with. Anyway, we've got a bunch of concrete here to build a bunch of spawning pads. We've got some glass and stuff here as well. A bit of smooth stone in case we need some blocks just to kind of fill gaps here and there, and a bunch of iron, because like I said, we will need iron, we'll need anvils for some of this stuff, and we will also need to build iron golems. So, as you can see, I haven't brought all the supplies with me yet. We don't have even the pumpkins for the iron golems. I'll be going back and forth to the overworld here and there to get the stuff we need. But for now, we need to be bridging out in a couple of different directions. What we first need to do is consider the spawning radius that we have as a player. So I've grabbed the blocks we're going to be bridging with. I've got a few other blocks that we will potentially need in a second, but we're going to go down to Y253, and that is where we're going to be building our first bridge out towards where the spawning platforms are going to be built. Let's grab that, and let's move out 23 blocks from here. There we go. So we've got 41 blocks left. We are 23 blocks out here, and that is where we're going to be placing one piece of black concrete, and that is going to be the start of a circle with a radius of 23 blocks around a central point where the player is going to stand. And there are going to be 4 of these, each spaced 2 blocks apart. So we're going to come down 2 blocks on this scaffold here, and we're going to start another platform right underneath where that black concrete is. And by the way, it's a very good idea to light this stuff up as you go, because any spawnable space you create up here is potentially spawnable space for all kinds of nether mobs, whether it be ghasts, zombie pigmen, magma cubes, that kind of stuff, most of which you probably want to keep away from you until the mob farm is complete. Now, you won't really be able to block zombie pigman spawns with torches, but that just means that you'll get zombie pigmen spawning up here harmlessly. They're not going to aggro on you unless you hit them, so keep your swinging fists to yourself for a little while. So naturally, our next spawning platform is going to be starting at Y250, because we've got a 2-block height to the platform above that. Let's bridge out using the same stuff. And right here, we're going to be placing a grey concrete slab. I'm not really building these in different colors for any particular reason. I just think it's going to look kind of cool. So you can use basically any material you want for this as long as it's a solid block, but I'm using different colors of concrete because I like that as a design choice. I think the kind of gradient of black through to white is going to look really interesting here. Our next platform is going to be at Y247, so actually we're going to be AFKing around Y244. Okay, so we are going to have to make sure that at least a few layers of the nether ceiling are going to be spawn proof, but that's not a big concern. And by the way, mobs won't spawn on bedrock. I don't think I mentioned that earlier in the episode, but you don't need to worry about zombie pigmen spawning. As you can see, anywhere else on the nether roof, they're not going to be spawning there unless you place some solid blocks that are spawnable for them. Going to put a light grey piece of concrete there, and then come down 2 more blocks and place some white concrete, and that is going to be where our 4th spawning platform starts. We're going to be using 4 for this design, and by the way, the design we're going to be using here was pioneered by a player named Snow Crash, but the version we're going to be building has been optimized by Ilmango, and you're probably familiar with Ilmango's name if you've been watching this series, or anyone else's series, basically, for a little while. So I'm going to link to Ilmango's video in the description that explains how to build this and exactly why his version is more optimized than the original Snow Crash farm design. But you're working with fairly simple mob spawning rules here. It's a 23 block radius away from the player, and you're working with the amount of maximum zombie pigmen that can spawn and just eliminating other spawns. So in theory, this farm is pretty straightforward. It just requires a little bit of prior knowledge of how Minecraft spawns these mobs in the first place. So we've got each of our spawning platform starter blocks in place, and this is the part where it gets a little bit grindy, because we're going to have to build out each of these platforms with a 23 block radius circle, and it's going to be at least 8 blocks thick, so I'm not sure I'll even have brought enough concrete for this. We might have to go back to the overworld and get some more. But we're going to build out a circle with a radius of 23, and then another circle around the outside with a radius of 31, and that's going to make sure that it stays on an odd number so that we can have a single AFK space in the center of the farm for the player to stand. And keeping the edge of the platform less than 32 blocks away means that the zombie pigmen won't have any chance to naturally despawn, which is what hostile mobs typically do when they are outside of a 32 block range of the player. So we're going to start building this thing out. There's really no substitute for hard work in these circumstances. I'm going to go to plots.co.uk, generate myself a couple of circles that I can work from here, and we're going to build 4 giant circles up here in the roof of the Nether. And naturally, we're going to need a lot more torches for this as well, so I'm going to go ahead and grab some of those, maybe grab a few more materials from the overworld while I'm there, and when we come back, we're going to do all of this in the form of a time-lapse. Welcome back, folks. I hope you enjoyed the time-lapse, and you can already see from the sheer number of zombie pigmen spawning on the platforms around us how different this farm is going to operate from our original Nether ceiling gold farm. It's really going to be quite special, and yeah, there's a lot of pigmen around here. Also, a lot of ghasts spawning. You might have noticed quite a few of them popping up during that time-lapse, and we're going to take care of that now. Luckily, each of these platforms, only being, 2 blocks high, is only going to spawn zombie pigmen and magma cubes, potentially. Now, the magma cubes we're going to take care of via an interesting method. It's going to be quite similar to the slime farm, actually. We're going to be positioning iron golems a little way outside the perimeter of the farm. The magma cube's going to be attracted towards those and simply leap off the side onto the floor below. And I don't know if magma cubes actually take fall damage. I don't believe they do, but either way, they'll be basically hopping out of range of the player and eventually will just despawn, opening the mob cap out to more zombie pigmen. Likewise, endermen are not going to be able to spawn in this too high gap. Ghasts cannot either, and the last place we need to take care of ghast spawning environments is up here on the top level, because this is still at Y253, but even if you put a platform at Y256, ghasts would still be able to spawn up there. It is a fact that mobs can spawn even if the block they are spawning on is at build height, because technically speaking, you know, they're not a block. you can put a mob up there, no problem at all. And so, yeah, we need to come up with a way of spawn-proofing this, and going back to Ilmango's video, one thing he's done is basically build a giant glass roof over the top of this thing, except the way he builds the roof is kind of interesting and saves on materials. So let's build up a quick column of glass here. I've got my Silk Touch pick on me, just checking that, and this is the maximum height that we can place blocks here. We're at Y256. Now, if I place blocks kind of alternating between a glass block and an air block all the way around, that will save the amount of glass that I have to place up here, but will still create a spawn-proof environment for ghasts, making sure that the roof is only 2 blocks high in places and will not allow any area for ghasts to spawn. And it's pretty important for me to save on the glass right now because I really don't have a whole lot of it left. I need to go to a desert and do some digging for sand, and that's kind of going to influence how much of this farm we get done today as well, because this entire central section here is going to be made out of glass, with the exception of the space in the middle where the player is going to stand. Once we reach this part of the farm here, which is effectively the middle point of this angle of the circle, we're just going to go at a right angle here, bring the glass out to this side, and we're going to create a little kind of set of L shapes over here that's doing much the same thing. And some folks who have been keeping up with the news about Minecraft 1.14 and its updates may wonder why we're still bothering to build this farm, because some aspects of this farm were a little bit dodgy in Minecraft 1.14.3 and some of the snapshots for 14.4. In particular, there was a problem for a while with zombie pigmen where they wouldn't stop being angry at a player, so anytime you re-entered the nether after having been killed by zombie pigmen, you were finding that they were still angry at you, and unfortunately that was a bit of a problem for players who were trying to recover their stuff after having been killed. And a couple of attempts to fix that behavior led to this farm becoming less reliable, because if zombie pigmen basically stop being angry at you, they no longer run into the center of the farm and you have to aggro them again, making it not possible to AFK at this farm. But I don't think that's the case anymore. I think that has been sort of resolved in 1.14.4, and even if it hasn't, personally, I really don't mind babysitting this farm a little bit if that's what it takes to get us a bunch of gold. I'm not really here to create a super powerful AFK farm that's going to get you tons of gold and experience. I'm mostly here just to get myself a bunch of gold regardless. I don't mind about this being an AFK-able farm. So if anybody in the comments is wondering why I'm building this farm if the mechanics surrounding it are broken, first of all, I'm not really sure that they are broken anymore, and second of all, I'm kind of happy even if they are still a little bit different. Let's face it, this thing is already spawning more zombie pigmen than I think I've ever seen in one place in this world, so I think it's a safe bet to say that this farm is going to be pretty productive either way. But as for how exactly the mechanics of this farm are going to work, how we're going to be getting quite so much gold and experience from these pigmen, unfortunately, that's going to have to wait until tomorrow's episode, because I have completely run out of glass. This is a little bit embarrassing to have this happen in the middle of this project, but you know what? I think I'm going to have to go and collect some sand off camera, and I really won't have time to do all of the rest of this in the time that it's going to take me to get this episode out to you guys. So tomorrow, we will continue building this zombie pigman gold farm. We will get everything finished up for it, and you will see why this thing is probably one of the most sought-after farms in all of survival Minecraft. But that's going to be it for this episode of the Minecraft Survival Guide. Thank you so much for watching. My name has been Pixlriffs. Don't forget to leave a like on this episode if you enjoyed it. Subscribe if you want to see more. Take shelter from ghasts, and I'll see you guys soon. Take care. Bye for now.